Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday. October the 8th, 2025. As you can see there, Neil's in a bit of a hurry today. He's on a mission, the little fella. And don't blame him. Beautiful day. Again, as I said yesterday. A little bit happening in the boxing world. Nothing major, but just some little tidbits we'll go over today. But firstly, just one thing on this day back in boxing history. No actual fights, which is a little bit unusual. I couldn't really find anything. But one thing that happened, I suppose it's a significant day in boxing history. In 1818, Jack Broughton, I think that's how you pronounce it, or Broughton, designed the first boxing glove to be used in a boxing match. Now I reckon we've done a couple of these before where maybe it's other designs of gloves or a particular ounce of glove has been produced, but that's what it says there on this day, that the first boxing glove was designed. Isn't it interesting that, was it 207 years later, that we've regressed and gone back to wearing no gloves at all in bare knuckle boxing. So it's amazing how sometimes you evolve and then you, what's the opposite to evolve? De-evolve or whatever. I'm just making that word up. But that's sort of what seemed to happen. We sort of worked out all the dangers involved with no boxing gloves and all the rest of it. So we designed gloves. And then 200 years on, we decided that no, for the crowd's entertainment, we'll put all the safety for fighters to the side, and we'll go back to bare knuckle boxing. I still don't get it. I was actually asked the other night what I thought about bare knuckle boxing, and I don't get it. I admire the fighters, as I always do, with no matter what combat sport you're in. But geez, I know it takes. Look, I'll give them credit. It takes us a specific type of person to want to get in there and punch on with no gloves or anything on. I mean, it's crazy. I take my hat off to them as far as the steel and metal that they're made of. But geez, as a spectacle, I'm just not sure. Isn't it funny though? It almost contradicts the world at the moment. The world has been sanitized so much, and everyone's so precious about everything. And what do? We roll out the bare knuckle boxing, just blood and guts everywhere. Pretty crazy, but I suppose that sort of reflects the world at the moment, doesn't it? And that we're all over the place and mixed up in our values and everything else. But we'll move on. We don't want to get political. Always upsets people when we get political. So we'll stick to the script. All right, what's happening today in boxing? All right, the main thing I did see actually, and look, I was a little bit hesitant to actually bring it up because we've had the numerous false starts, but looks like Tyson Fury will be back in 2026. Now, this hasn't actually come from Tyson himself. It's come from his promoter or co-promoter, Frank Warren. And Frank Warren said that he'd spoken to Tyson Fury, and he told Frank Warren that he will be back in 2026. And I suppose when you look at it, he hasn't fought in 2025. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. Now he might be in again. Didn't he say not long ago, and I think he had the phone sort of video over the harbour or whatever it was in the ocean, whatever it was, from his holiday home, saying, "See, this is why I'll never come back, and I found grey hairs in my beard." And nothing wrong with having grey hairs in your beard, by the way. It doesn't mean you're old. It means you're oldish. But he did say that he wasn't going to come back. And hasn't, as I said, hasn't fought in 2025. And then on the flip side, you look at someone like Anthony Joshua. Very similar story, disappointing loss last time out, and has spent the entirety of 2025 on the sidelines. Is this all been a little bit of posturing and maybe fighting each other, in the first half of next year? We'll see. I'm not sure. I mean, even if they are talking about it, why wouldn't they? I mean, it's $100 million each fight, isn't it, really? It's that type of fight. But I mean, the one thing you'll probably look at, I mean, it's easy to say, well, they should probably have tune-ups, but should they? It's probably been about the similar time between the two since they've both fought. So I suppose that doesn't come into it. They're experienced campaigners for another one. And I don't think either one of them would probably want to risk any injury or whatever. And you know what Tyson Fury's like. He might get in there with a lesser opponent for that tune-up and struggle, and then go, yeah, you know what, I'm out of here. That's the type of guy he is. He's obviously had some problems outside the ring upstairs, but it looks like he's got that under control now, which is good. But you would have to wonder if he did put in a poor performance, whether he would actually go on with it. So I got no dramas with them all, just saying, hey, March, April, May, whatever, 2026, let's go. Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, I think it'd be great. And I just think, I've said this in past videos, that I just think both fighters would just really regret it. And I think both their legacies would be tarnished, if you want to say that about them not fighting each other. I think it would be one of the biggest travesties in heavyweight boxing history, or boxing history really. I mean, the magnitude of what the fight would be. I know it's a little bit late, but better late than never, I suppose. Look, I think the argument with that as well, it might be a little bit late, but they're both, I think they're both similar ages. They're both similar sort of careers, so I don't think the age really comes in. It's a little bit like when Mayweather fought Pacquiao. I know they were both slightly past their best, but they were still around the same stage of their careers. So I don't think that would be a major issue. I think it would definitely be up there with Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe was probably the heavyweight fight that should have happened that never did. And arguably this one's probably even bigger than that one. So we'll see what happens there. The other heavyweight on the comeback trail is Daniel Dubois. Now it looks like he might fight Frank Sanchez in an IBF eliminator. Daniel Dubois, of course, coming off that really disappointing loss to Alexander Usyk. I think we all expected a lot more from Daniel Dubois. I, for one, did, and I was really surprised at how easily Alexander Usyk made light work of Daniel Dubois, so he'd be disappointed in that. I can't believe that a lot of people actually thought that he would beat Usyk. It just staggers me, but Usyk made it look very, very easy, as he tends to do. But yeah, Frank Sanchez, he's had the false starts against Moses Ottama, and there was someone else in there, I think they were talking about him fighting. And obviously they fell over, and Daniel Dubois has stepped up and said he will fight Frank Sanchez. I think I read that they had, I think it was a couple of weeks' time, or 22nd of October, I think to be exact, to get the fight decided upon and agreed upon, and all the terms and all that sort of stuff. And then they'll probably fight early next year. So, yeah, not a bad fight, that one. Frank Sanchez, he's got a little bit to prove after that loss to Caballero. Good fighter. Yeah, it should be a pretty good fight with Dubois. But either way, good to see the heavyweights all starting to fight each other. Of course, we've got Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley coming up. And I think we might see this a little bit more over the next few weeks, or sorry, not few weeks, a few months. And even the next sort of year or two, where you'll see that the best heavyweights just sort of fight each other as they all wait to get their opportunity to fight either Usyk or whoever it might be for the heavyweight title. So plenty of movement in the heavyweight division. Speaking of divisions, we'll go the 168-pound division. I read an article about Terence Crawford, and he sort of let us in on his bulking up to 168. And I think it was in an interview with Andre Ward, a podcast or whatever it was. And it was really interesting to hear how he did the 168. And he said, surprisingly, it wasn't that hard or difficult. So, morning, how you doing? Good, mate. One of the guys I see every morning on the walk. His little dog always attacks Neil. He's a little poodle and does not like Neil. And Neil knows it, so he tries to stay away from him. And this little dog named Ralph comes up nice and friendly, and then goes right after Neil. And Neil's got a bit of PTSD, so when he sees him coming, he cuts the other way. But anyway, nice man anyway who owns him, says g'day every morning. Yeah, so it was surprisingly easy, he said, how he did it, because I think we all thought, and a lot of people thought out there, a lot of fans and experts thought that it was a sort of process of just beefing up and doing lots of weights and eating up and all the rest of it. He said, no, he said, all I really did was just let my body be my body. He said, contrary to what people thought, it wasn't done quickly. He said, back in February, we started training for the Canelo fight, even though it hadn't been officially signed, sealed and delivered then, but we all knew what was happening. He said he started the process then of just letting his body grow, keeping it in shape, but not restricting it at all. He said when he was at the lighter weights, even right up to 147, he said that he was always in the gym, always just trying to keep around an acceptable weight because he knew he had to make 147, which he said was getting increasingly hard. And he said with the Canelo fight, when he started in February, he said he just started training and enjoying training and not worrying about his weight, not worrying about anything or trying to restrict his body. He just let his body grow and just concentrate on getting the work in. And he said his body just naturally went up to 168. And of course, he had to incorporate a lot of the strength and conditioning and all that sort of stuff. But he said it was simply a process of my body just being able to do its thing. And he had to trim down a little bit of weight because I think he said he didn't balloon up as high as what a lot of people thought he did. I think there was rumours he was around 186 or something at one stage. But said he did he was always a little bit over the limit and he just had to cut a little bit to go back down to 168. But he was also asked actually about the inactivity factor and it really made a lot of sense to me too because I've actually been critical of him for only fighting one fight a year. But he said, look, he said it's looking after your body and letting your body look after itself as well. He said he only fought once a year. He said the camps were so intense, especially as you get on in age. And he said they're so intense that you've got to give your body a chance to just heal itself, to relax, get back to its 100% sort of wellness, I suppose, and then you go again for the next camp. And when you think about it, you look at someone like Canelo Alvarez, who has fought at least twice a year for however long. And before that was fighting, 3-4 times a year before that. So, and the camps that he'd be putting himself through and, to have nearly 70 fights, I think judging by the fight against Crawford, you could probably see that maybe all those camps and everything had caught up with Canelo, which is why Crawford seemed like the much fresher fighter when they did fight. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoy hearing elite athletes sort of give behind the scenes sort of comments like that about what happens. And he just shrugged his shoulders and said, well, yeah, I just let my body do its thing. And I was fresh, I was healthy, I felt great, and it reflected in the fight. So very, very interesting comments by Terence Crawford. The other one, speaking of 168, was David Benavidez. Now, he's shut down any talk at all that he'll go back to 168. He was actually pretty good. He said, look, hey, full credit to Terence Crawford. What a performance beating Canelo Alvarez. But he said, I got no thoughts at all about going back to 168. He said, obviously, he's up to 175 now. And he just said, look, I would really struggle to make it. He said, I'm enjoying 175. I've got opportunities at 175. And he said, Terence Crawford, he said, enjoy the titles, mate, they're yours. I won't be coming back to attempt to take them off you. So obviously a fan of Terence Crawford. He even actually said that even if Canelo wanted to fight him now, he said at 168, he said he wouldn't be able to do it. He would have to decline that fight. He did hold out hope that maybe one day he gets Canelo back. I don't think so. I think if Canelo wasn't going to fight him as champion, when he had to, there's no way he's going to voluntarily fight David Benavidez at such a big weight. And David Benavidez has moved on, and I'll give him sort of credit for that. Actually, he didn't trash talk Canelo like he normally does. He just said, "No, I'm a 175-pound fighter now. I'm going to aim for Bivol and Beterbiev, and then I'm going to go up and." Again, did say Zurdo Ramirez. Again, no mention of Jai Pataya, which just bewilders me why everyone talks about the cruiserweight division and Jai never gets a mention. Staggers me. But at some stage, they won't be able to step around Jai Pataya, I don't think. I think once he actually gets an opportunity to fight one of those guys, we're going to see the real Jai Pataya and what he can do. So let's go across here, buddy. Come on, man. We'll go across while we can. Lots of cars on this road. All right, I'll just get across here and we'll get on to the next topic. But yeah, as I said, really, really happy to hear David Benavidez actually talk with a little bit of respect, because normally he talks with anything but, doesn't he? So, all right, what else we got happening today? Well, what did I say? Oh, I did. Boots. Yes, Boots Ennis. Sorry, I did see that he is obviously fighting this weekend with a fight that he should win, in my opinion, quite comfortably. But he said that he's obviously after Virgil Ortiz next. If he doesn't get Ortiz, he's going to aim for Murtazaliev or Fundora. So if that is the case, hey, happy days. I'm still not sure whether Eddie Hearn's going to want to put Boot Tennis in with guys like Murtazalyov, though. Wouldn't be a big money fight. Very, very risky. I would think, just a gut feeling, that Eddie's going to want to put Boots in with maybe a Zayos first, to maybe get his opportunity at winning the world title at that weight. I know he is, or maybe the WBA, what's his name, Barrow, whatever his name is, Barrows, can't remember who it is, that's how well I know that guy, but he's got the WBA belt, so you would think that maybe that's an option as well. And I think he'll want a belt before he fights Ortiz, or he'll want Ortiz to have a belt, because this is the thing with Virgil Ortiz. As good as we all think he is and how renowned he is, and a lot of people think he's number one in the division, hasn't actually got a proper belt. He's got an interim belt, I think it is. So I would like to see a belt before those guys fight. And I've got a feeling, as I said, that Ortiz will probably come back and probably fight, well, he might fight Zayas, mightn't he? But either way, I think Boot Tennis, it's good that Eddie Hearn's sort of talking up the fact that he might target those guys, but I just don't think someone like Murtazalyov is someone that Eddie Hearn's going to want Boot Tennis in with. Now, I think Boot Tennis wins that fight, by the way, but that doesn't matter. It comes down to risk involved and money and all the rest of it. And Murtazalyov, while he's dangerous, isn't a massive name. It would be a bit of a hard sell. Not to fight fans, though. Fight fans would love it, but just to the general public. So I would think that, as I said, he'll probably go for the WBA or WBO belt, and then we might look at a Virgil Ortiz fight after that. But geez, isn't there some just unbelievable matchups at 154? And I know they're just all starting to come together now, but the Fundora and Thurman fight, yeah, it's okay, I suppose. But I want to see the Murtazalyovs and Fundoras and Ortizes and Ennises and all these types of guys go out. There's potentially some fantastic fights at 147. So, at 154. So, we'll see how we go. And look, one other thing I'll touch on before I go. I did see, this is the fighters of today. Lack of respect. Ryan Garcia has questioned the legitimacy of Gennady Triple G Golovkin getting into the Hall of Fame. And I nearly fell off my chair, if I'm being honest, that Ryan Garcia, now he didn't say that he should be in front of Triple G, but the fact we've got someone like Ryan Garcia questioning the credentials of Triple G just staggered me. I thought of all the 3 potential inductees of Triple G, Steve Collins, and Vernon Forrest, that Triple G was just the no-brainer. He was just the one that would go straight in. And I understand to some extent the Hall of Fame is supposed to be the best of the best, but surely Triple G would have to be in the mix of anyone that was sort of keeping track of the Hall of Fame. And I don't like to pick out fighters, but when you've got guys like, an Arturo Gatti and even my man Vinny Paz, of course, the Triple G's got to be in there. And I know the argument could be, well, they don't deserve to be in there either, but I don't like to sort of say that. I think they're in there for a reason, for different reasons. But Triple G, I know he didn't have that classic dance partner until Canelo came along, but geez, is he any different to, well, I suppose I liked him a little bit to, say, Marvin Hagler, who's regarded as one of the greatest middleweights of all time and a sure thing Hall of Famer. But up until he beat Thomas Hearns, didn't really have a legacy win either. And I know you could probably say Duran, but Duran at the time was a blown up lightweight. He was expected to beat Duran pretty easily. So he was obviously a famous name, but at the time wasn't highly regarded. And it wasn't until he got the Hearns fight that he got that signature win. Triple G, on the other hand, similar thing. Cleaned out the entire division with not a lot of competition there, and then came up against Canelo. And I think, he had that first fight where a lot of people thought that he won the fight, or most people thought he won that fight. It was a draw. Even the second fight was close. So I think he was denied his signature win in the Canelo fight, especially that first Canelo fight. So I think we'd be looking at him in a whole different light if he had actually won that fight. But I think it's really unfair to question his legacy, especially Ryan Garcia, by the way, to question his legacy after everything that he's done. And again, as I said, it's unfortunate that he never got that Canelo win. that really would have put him in there with no doubt whatsoever. But all that aside, I think how could you not have Triple G in the Hall of Fame? Just a fantastic fighter. Was prepared to fight anyone and everybody. He made a lot of his fights look easy, and I really feel for him that he never got that Canelo win, because you could almost see that took a lot out of him mentally. He wasn't sort of the same after that first one. I know again the second one was close. I thought Canelo actually won the second fight though, and then the third one he didn't really show up, did he? He looked a lot very jaded, very washed, and didn't really put in a great performance at all. But Ryan Garcia, how you would have the audacity to say that in public, even if you thought it privately. I just thought, geez, this sort of typifies the boxers of today. Absolutely no respect, no decency, no class. And as I said, even if you thought that privately, why come out and say it publicly? We've all got our own sort of debates we have about certain fighters and how they rank in boxing history, but Ryan Garcia, who has achieved nothing as a professional, hasn't won a world title. And I know he had the win over Devin Haney, but that's about it. And his other legacy fight, I suppose, if you want to call it that, he was dropped by a body shot and quit against Tank Davis. So I just find it hard to take what someone like Ryan Garcia says about an all-time great in Triple G. And I think we all get a little bit precious about the stars, don't we? And I get a little bit offended when you've got fighters who haven't achieved anything, bad-mouthing great fighters like Triple G. But anyway, I'm sure you have your own opinion out there as well. Give me your thoughts. Am I wrong? Or does Ryan Garcia got to get back in his box and actually prove himself before he starts lipping off to everyone in the boxing world? So I want to wait and see whether Ryan Garcia can actually win one of these big fights. Again, I know he fought Haney, but I want to see him go up and fight a Norman or one of these types of guys like Haney's doing at the moment. And that performance against Rolly Romero is probably one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen by a fighter who's supposed to be world class. With Ryan Garcia. So not great timing to be bad-mouthing Triple G if you ask me. So anyway, give me your thoughts as always. Hope you have a great Wednesday. We'll catch you tomorrow.